Ryan's Priebus.
And this is not a criticism of him or anything like that, but how the heck does the Republican Party elect a national committee representative to be our spokesperson, or the Republican spokesperson, and his Wisconsin organization is in such disarray? And they don't have the local grassroots that's really needed to be successful.
I would love to talk to you about that afterwards. I've got a lot to say on that.
It's not his fault, but
Well,
it's just
he won.
interesting.
I mean, you won in 2010 in a big way. And I'm not saying it should have happened, but isn't that the answer? He won.
I think that is largely the answer, is that Ryan's Priebus is given credit for having
Maybe he wrote away, but he won.
Yeah.
Listen,
In the state.
let me, can I address that real quick while he's getting set up? Look, folks, just using again the Republican Party as an example. On the blogs, on Red State, during the run-up to the RNC election, this latest one, there was all this blogging about it ought to be this guy, it ought to be that guy. They could care less what those blogs are saying, because their constituency are not the bloggers. Their constituency are the precinct committeemen who elected the state delegates, who then elected the RNC members, who then elect the RNC chairman. And that was done years ago. Ryan's Priebus is a legacy of things that happened years ago.
Ryan's Priebus was elected 2 years ago.
The only people who impact the RNC chairman election really are precinct committee in the end. So that's why you got to become a precinct committee.
Your comment 2 years ago is because the people who elected him were elected.
Exactly.
That's right. They were elected 2 years ago, and all the decisions were made at that point. So it was definitely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's hard when you get your head around it, but once you do, it's surprising. We've had some. I'm Warren Neal. I've been an online guy for since the late '80s, and I blogged and I did all that. My thing is philosophy, right? So I'm totally surprised that I'm in this kind of stuff. But here I am. I heard a Rush Limbaugh broadcast once, and they said, "Hey, go to Red State." Well, I blogged at Red State for a while, and this guy, Cold Warrior, started talking about becoming a precinct committeeman. I thought, well, so what? And everything he constantly harped on, become a precinct committeeman, become a precinct committeeman. It got to be a joke with us, because you could have a post about the Chilean grape growers, and Cold Warrior would come on and say, that really relates to becoming a precinct committeeman. But finally, right about the time Dan was ready to give up. Well, I've heard of that. But he was getting really discouraged, and some of us started to look into it. And I said, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do this. I looked all day one day to try to figure out how to contact my county chairman, because it wasn't in the phone book. There was no. I finally had to contact someone, an elected official I knew happened to be in my party, and got to my county chairman that way, and then showed up at a meeting, and here I am. That's the short story. But the long story is that I approached there was already a fellow who was the precinct committeeman. He wasn't doing anything, but he was the precinct committeeman in my precinct. In Illinois, it's a little different. We don't have a number of precinct, we don't have a committeeman per 125 people like they do in Arizona. You have one person per precinct who's they call him a precinct committeeman anyway. So I approached the guy and said, I've always wanted to have my name on the ballot somewhere and get elected to something. And so I'm going to go ahead and run. I'm going to put my name on the ballot and run, if that's okay with you. And he said, yeah, that's fine. You do that. I said, that's great. We'll both do it. And you have better name recognition. I'm Lauren Heel. Who's ever heard of that name? And you're going to, in our little town, they're going to elect you, no problem. And then we can both go together, knocking on the doors and doing all the work, and that'll be great, won't it? And a couple of days later, he said, you know what? I think I'm just going to let you run. It was his idea to drop out, okay? And that was the first lesson I had in sort of taking back my party is, if you do the work, the people, and you give them the option to withdraw on their own, they're a lot happier about it, and there's no fuss. There's no fuss. So, but we've had some successes, in not on the level of that Jim has, of just showing up, raising my hand, and getting in. Gordon Holton is a blogger in Illinois, and he's used to be a lineup pundit, and he's a congressional campaign manager and whatnot. So anyway, he was a PC, and they had a county board meeting, and they had a PC, they had a county clerk drop out or die, I can't remember which, and he was there and said, he said, before I became a county clerk, I'd been running campaigns my whole life. He ran a successful congressional campaign as the campaign manager, and he said, I didn't really know anything about election law or how to run an election until I became a county clerk. So we might need a project on that to get more people to actually be county clerks. Brian Mildell, who was supposed to be here, couldn't be here. They were Tea Party leaders. They were on the couch, literally, when Santelli made his rant. And both heard the rant and stood up and said, yeah, we got to do that. And they formed the little Effingham Tea Party and became Precinct Committeeman. And Brian got elected to a city council after spending